We're ready to get right into this one. Here we go.
Just gave us one of the craziest spears of all time, and this hot take says that Braun Breaker has got to become the world champion before the end of 2025. Look, I love Braun Breaker. I think he's a great talent. I think he's going to be a world champion for years to come, and I think he might have the best spear of all time. I truly feel that way, but I do not think there is room for him to become a world champion in 2025. However, I do think in 2026 or even 2027, that is when Braun Breaker has got to be a world champion, because I think by then he will be a bigger name. He'll also have more recognition with the fans, and I think he will be ready to be in the main event scene of WWE and main eventing WrestleManias. The next hot take says that Drew McIntyre has got to be one of the most poorly booked wrestlers ever, and I got to agree. It is unbelievable that WWE is not putting Drew McIntyre in the main event scene after that great feud that he had with CM Punk. Even before then, I thought that Drew McIntyre was doing great. The guy's been killing it, and he's not being rewarded for his work. It is unbelievable. Even this hot take by Dar Kuto says that Drew McIntyre is criminally underrated and should be one of the top guys. And while he is one of the top guys, he's not being used as one of the top main eventers, which is really sad to see. I think he should have been involved in some sort of match at WrestleMania, maybe even the triple threat match with CM Punk, Seth Rollins, and Roman Reigns. You could have made that a fatal four-way because there's a lot of beef with all of those wrestlers. It could have worked, honestly, and that could have been for the World Heavyweight Championship. That kind of would have been a pretty fire idea. Anyways, Alan says if John Cena loses at WrestleMania 41, the fans might turn on Cody. I do not think this is going to happen at all, because a lot of people have been cheering for Cody during this entire feud that he's been having with John Cena. If you watch Raw for the last 3 or 4 weeks, you would see that the crowd is booing John Cena. Maybe there's a little cheers for him, but the majority of people love Cody. They're cheering for him, and they clearly will cheer for him if he wins. Maybe some people online will be upset about it, but I don't think the majority of the WWE fans in real life would be upset. Speaking of John Cena, this says that John Cena is old and stale, and he's unfit to win the title again. And while he is old and he is stale and he's kind of washed in that ring, I'll be honest with you guys, I don't think John Cena is that great in the ring like he used to be. A lot of people said he couldn't wrestle before, but clearly he could. But now he actually can't wrestle too well. I think that's because he's trying to protect himself. But anyways, I don't agree with this hot take. Right now, John Cena is a heel, which means that WWE can book his matches in a different way than before. He could cheat a lot. He could use other people who can enter the ring and help him win the matches and stuff like that, which will protect John Cena, and it will make it look like he's still a decent wrestler. Speaking of the John Cena and the Cody Rhodes feud, Mr. C of Weed says that The Rock is ruining the build-up to WrestleMania by not being involved in the storyline, and John Cena still hasn't given a valid reason for aligning with him. For whatever reason, I don't know why The Rock did this entire thing at the Chamber, only to not show up, but I guess WWE has got to save the bigger moment for WrestleMania. Whatever happens at Mania, The Rock has got to show up, and he's got to help John Cena win the championship. Otherwise, turning heel makes absolutely no sense. Hopefully, things do change, but I can understand why people are upset that The Rock is not involved in this build-up for WrestleMania, especially after that great segment at Elimination Chamber. The next hot take says that Roman should wrestle on TV again. I don't know why, but I feel like when he became the tribal chief, the matches he had on regular TV felt so special, and I totally agree with this. A lot of people will say that the fact that he doesn't wrestle on a Raw or SmackDown is good because it keeps him special, but I disagree. I think that Roman should be wrestling at least once a month or once every 2 months. The fact that he doesn't even show up on TV to wrestle is getting me pissed off. He's too good to be wasting the prime of his career not showing up and not wrestling on a Raw or SmackDown. A lot of people are paying money, especially the most money of all time for these tickets, so you gotta go out there and wrestle, especially if you are one of the top pillars of the WWE, and that is just not sitting well with me, the fact that he's not showing up and wrestling. The next hot take says that Jey Uso versus Gunther is the best storyline this year, and it's interesting because a lot of people were unhappy about the WrestleMania buildup between Gunther and Jey, but things did change. The story is heating up, and I would say it's one of the best storylines. I still prefer the John Cena and Cody stuff because I love John Cena and his heel turn, but this is up there. They clearly turned things around, and that's great to see. Speaking of Gunther, this says that Gunther should squash Jay at Mania, and there's a lot of people that actually have this opinion. Even my friend himself has been telling me that Gunther has got to squash Jay, but I just disagree. I think Jey Uso is going to win. I think he should win, and I think it only makes sense for the storyline. So unfortunately, if you want Gunther to squash Jay, it's not happening. LEC NYC says that Jimmy deserves a bigger push than Jay, and some people feel this way, but I've never felt this way. I've always thought that Jay had more charisma than Jimmy Uso. I also thought that he was a better wrestler, and that's why I think he got the push that Jimmy did not get. Speaking of Jimmy in that push, this says that Jimmy Uso has completely saved the Gunther versus Jay feud, and Jimmy should get a major push just because of that. And I totally have to agree with this. I do think that adding Jimmy into the storyline completely changed things. It made Jey Uso serious. That was the main problem. The problem was that he was just saying yeet every single week, and also Jey Uso is much better as a serious wrestler, so this is exactly what the storyline needed. I wouldn't say that Jimmy is the reason for this. It's the writers who came up with this idea, but I understand the point, and I do think that Jimmy deserves a United States Championship or IC Championship run. This hot take says that Jay winning the Money in the Bank briefcase would have been better than Jay winning the Royal Rumble, and all I gotta say is I agree. I do think that Jay has turned things around with the storyline, and things are cooking like I just said, but I still stand by the fact that I think John Cena should have been the one who won the Royal Rumble. It would have only made this storyline with Cody better, and also John Cena winning one more time would have been great for his legacy. Dom says that Drew deserved that Royal Rumble win. You see, I wanted John Cena to win, but I think Drew McIntyre winning would have also been a great victory. Drew versus Gunther would have absolutely cooked. I think that's